Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. The POMcast, Stephen Willis, right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. I am so glad you joined me today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about transfers. I mean, that's the story coming up anyway. But we're talking about transfers coming in, and more importantly for this podcast, transfers going out and what you can expect. Now, I'm not going to go too much into who you can expect, but what you can expect. And we're going to have a potentially tumultuous offseason. Mississippi State had a tumultuous season because they just purged players during the year, get them out of there. And this way, we're going to do something kind of similar, but it's not necessarily going to be that extreme in the off season, especially this year where we get the extra numbers for free. So it might be a situation where somebody has a second senior year and a junior class, graduates as well. Next year on senior day is 35 people out on the football field. 30 people. That's kind of what we can expect there. But real quick, let's take care of this first. You can listen. You can follow on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or a group at Positively Ole Miss. You can catch us on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. You'll always know when we're streaming. And, of course, you can catch us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. If audio is more your thing, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. Those are the major podcatchers. We're also on minor ones, but if we named them all, we'd be here all day. Please leave a review. Make it 5-star. We don't care what you say. Just make it 5-star. That'll help with the searching within the algorithm of the podcast. So, DeMarcus Gregory announced last night that he is leaving the Ole Miss program. DeMarcus Gregory has not played much this year. He's obviously unhappy. He wants to play, so he's going to go somewhere where he can. That makes all the sense in the world. He's not going to be the last one. And there's going to be players whose playing time got dropped down below the threshold that they think they should be receiving and will take advantage of the transfer to move on to somewhere else. Does that hurt us? Not necessarily. Whenever you're as thin as we are on defense, I hope nobody takes off and jumps next year for that, Austin Keys or somebody. But this is kind of what we're looking at, that you're going to have these unhappy transfers like DeMarcus Gregory. Miles Battle, he played cornerback. He might decide he wants to play wide receiver and he could be gone. That is all part of the process. It is expected. Honestly, it's kind of needed. We'd rather have the scholarship spots than an unhappy player occupying one. That's the way this kind of works. So you look at DeMarcus Gregory. He could have filled out. He could have put on 10 pounds or 20 pounds and played tight end. Saw what Kenny Yeboah did this year. But there has to be a want to or physicality to change what you think you are. Once you understand what you are, it takes a pretty good bit to get you off of that spot. But there's going to be transfers coming in as well. The signing class, as you can see, has really picked up steam in the last week. Luke Altmaier decommitted from Florida State, and people expect him to sign with Ole Miss. That's the quarterback. And the number one tight end in Florida, now I think number 68 on Rivals, is potentially a target. Got Tywan Malone, defensive lineman out of New Jersey. He's a 4-star target. You already have Tysheem Johnson. So what I'm saying is recruiting is about to jump. And to have the initials to take transfers, which is part of it, means not signing a full class. Which means, let's see, we're at 13 or 14 now. I wouldn't expect more than 6 or 7 freshmen to enter, and the rest go toward transfers. I think next year we have a chance to be pretty good defensively if our defensive line takes a jump. If Jamon Gordon is what we thought he would be. The defense has a chance to take a jump because at safety, Jacob Springer will be eligible. You got Otis Reese out at the star. You've got Dean Leonard in year 2 because he's playing and he's doing a good job and everything, but he's still adjusting to this. He needs next season desperately. Keegan Smith on the other side, he's playing very physical. I think in the secondary, we could be very good next year. The linebackers, since only 2 will play at a time, I expect 1 to call it quits, either through a graduate transfer or another way. I don't know. But I think one of the 3. I think if I had to put money on it right now, Momo Sanogo was out at senior night. So I would expect him over the rest of our roster. And the main sore spot is that defensive line. We probably need another defensive lineman or 2. DeSanto Rollins got hurt in camp, or if you want to call it camp. And really, it's kind of a lost year. All right, segment 1 in the books right here on the POMcast. Stephen Willis. Thanks for listening, guys.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for listening. We enjoy it when you come out here and you get to learn a little bit, get to have some fun, get to pass some time. all from the palatial Central Florida studios. We're right here. This is Positively Ole Miss. This is the POMcast. I'm Stephen Willis, and again, thank you for listening. In the first segment, we talked about transfers and how we can expect that to move forward and how that is going to probably look in the upcoming windows. Because signing day, as you know, is about 2 weeks away, I think. And once that happens, it's on. We're 14 days away. I think the 16th is signing day. I could be wrong, but I don't have a calendar in front of me. So that's the way transfers are going to work with roster building. And we do have to continue to turn over our roster. And what does that mean? It's plenty explosive. Everything's fun. Well, there's players in the two deep on both sides that are unhappy, and they're probably going to look elsewhere. Now, that's natural. That's normal. At least they could have opted out at any point. They haven't done that. The only person I've seen enter the portal is DeMarcus Gregory, although I expect a couple more because people want to get in ahead of signing days, by the way. That's the reason they announce now. So teams can get him as opposed to taking somebody else. It's all a numbers game, and it's trying to get noticed, and it's saying, hey, recruit me. I'm the guy. Not this high school guy that you're going to have to develop. I've been in a college weight program for 3 years and currently a sophomore. Take me. That's the impetus behind why they come out like now instead of waiting a couple of weeks and transferring. You want to get ahead of the numbers crunch. Also, several people are reporting that Will Hall will take the Southern Mississippi job today, and that's a fantastic hire. He's done interesting stuff with the offense at Tulane. Before that, Memphis, and before that, ULL. He's a good get. Southern Miss is in danger of becoming completely irrelevant. And they need to be careful and make moves and work. They don't need to worry about Ole Miss and State. That race is run. They need to worry about getting caught by Jackson State. And I know what you're saying. Well, Jackson State is 1AA and all this, and that is true. But JSU right now has a little bit more mojo than Southern Mississippi. For instance, they can hire Deion Sanders. They can hire a name in there. They could not have gotten Deion Sanders at Southern Mississippi. They can't pay enough. And everything about this revolves around money. So Southern had to get this hire right. Not necessarily a name, get this hire right, because this is critical. If they were to hire another Ellis Johnson, it would have been the end of Southern Miss football at the CUSA level. I mean, they would probably have dropped down to 1AA. Because financially, I mean, they're just hurting at the moment. But Will Hall will do a good job. He will do what needs to be done, I think. Now, Southern Miss will never get back to the 90s and 80s and early 2000s. That's not going to happen. But they can be Middle Tennessee. They can be Western Kentucky. That's something they can do. They're going to have to recruit Mississippi like a banshee They are going to have to hit the JUCO market extremely hard in Mississippi, and you can put a team together. Now, a lot of their players back in their heyday, and this is a large reason for their decline, is the creation of South Alabama and the rise of Troy, and UAB and Tulane. New Orleans and South Alabama were places that were considered in USM's home area. And now the better players are going to those other schools because there's more competition. It's not necessarily a better thing, but it's still getting offered by your home state school. You know, if you're somebody from Mobile and South Alabama offers, it's still being offered by Tulane, your home state school. If somebody from New Orleans, you get passed on by LSU, but you can still go to Tulane and get a good education. I mean, so those schools contributed to the fall of Southern. And Ole Miss and State fans like to try and take credit for the fall of Southern because Ole Miss won't play them, haven't played them since '84. Mississippi State plays them now, but stopped playing them in like 1990. And that's not the case. Their player pool dried up. South Mississippi, Ole Miss and State had recruited South Mississippi very hard. There's been no oxygen left for Southern Miss to get the players that they wanted to get. I mean, that's just the truth. It has nothing to do with the ball game. It's everything to do with players. Used to, they could get the ones that fell through the cracks. There was no South Alabama. Tulane was going 1-10. Troy was an afterthought. That changed. Now Southern Miss is the afterthought. Now Southern Miss is the team going 1-11. Now, one thing that people need to keep in mind about that Southern Miss job is Will Hall is a run-first coach, and they have former Buster Faulkner air raid personnel. They have in Frank Gore Jr., like a 5'8" running back that weighs about 190 pounds. So they're going to have to overhaul their personnel as well. Just like Lane Kiffin. And that overhaul with the personnel you could see something. I mean, you could see John Rice Plumlee in Hattiesburg. You could see Snoop Connor in Hattiesburg. Not saying it would happen, but one's from Hattiesburg and one's from Oak Grove. And that Will Hall system would fit both of them. And then all of a sudden you have your banger running back and your quarterback that can run and throw the ball. Right there. Those two players would fix your issue. Now, of course, in that situation, you better get Luke Altmaier. Let him learn for a year and hand it over to him. I mean, because you can't afford to miss at that point. But, like I said, this is all about personnel and changing your roster and building it in your image. Ole Miss needs to find a tight end and a slot receiver next year, and a right tackle. Right now, Eli Acker is going to play right tackle, and Dennis Jackson's going to play in the slot. And the offense is going to change a little bit in the fact that instead of Elijah Moore, it becomes Jonathan Mingo as the focal point to go along with the running backs. They're going to find ways to get Jerry Neely the ball because he's the second best offensive player. So you could see something like that. You could see Ole Miss in a 2 running back set pretty consistently with him and Henry Parrish, and every now and then either him or Parrish occupying the slot role. Ely has the hands to do it. I think Parrish does as well. He's looked quite well. He looked quite good in the later season action. But it's all about roster makeup and turnover. It's needed. It's expected. It comes with every coaching change. If we would have had a spring, this would have already happened. But since we didn't have a spring and we just had a fall camp or a fall practice and then going into the games, and it doesn't count against, there's players that's like, well, let's just see what it's like and ride it out. Well, now it's time for them to move. So DeMarcus Gregory puts his name in the portal, and there's going to be more to come. Now, there's going to be players incoming too. We almost got a fantastic slot receiver last year. I can't remember his name, and the last second he changed his mind and went to UCF. And he's a local Florida boy. He was a jet sweep slot guy in the mold of D'Angelo Antoine. And, oh man, time flies when you're having fun. All right, Stephen Willis, POMcast, come up to wrap it up. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
POMcast, Stephen Willis, last segment of the day. Man, time has flown this morning. Having a good time. We talked a little Southern Miss. We talked a little transfers and roster management and things like that. No official word is happening, and it won't happen until Friday from the SEC, and they won't announce TV until that Monday. But it looks like Ole Miss versus Texas A&M will happen on the 12th. It looks like Ole Miss and LSU will happen on the 19th. And, that's a good thing. Everybody getting their games in. LSU, by the way, catches Ole Miss after a stretch where they played Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida. Good luck. Have a good time there. You guys will be terrific. Yeah, there's probably going to be more opt-outs from LSU. LSU's going through some things right now. They are alleged to have bought a player from money stolen from a children's cancer charity. Yeah, that happened. They had former players handing out $100 bills. It really is like needful things. It's like, hey, you can have this and you'll win the national championship in football, but it will absolutely collapse after that. And their collapse has been breathtaking. It's at the point now where LSU is doing things that I recognize from when I worked with Orgeron at Ole Miss. It's like, that didn't work at Ole Miss. The quarterback rotations and things like that, there, all that's left is for him to say, we're going to run the USC offense. That's all that is left. It's just really pitiful. They are probably at this point right now the worst team in the SEC West. I will rate State above them. I will rate Arkansas above them. Auburn beat them 48-3. That was pretty obvious. Mississippi State beat them. They beat Arkansas, but Arkansas had no defensive linemen because of COVID. If they lose out, which is very possible, they'll end up 3-7 the year after winning the national championship. That's crazy. As for Ole Miss, they are currently 4-4. Got back to 500. This show predicted in between 5-5, 6-4 in the preseason. And of course, you know, that included an Arkansas victory, which they did not do. That was the 6 interception game. So I think that everybody needs to take a deep breath and understand that a lot of transfers are going to go out and some are going to come in. Whether they're a regular transfer, a player being processed, an unhappy player, it all counts the same. And don't let anybody tell you any different. It's all going to be about roster management. Are there going to be players that leave that they'd like to keep? Sure. But the players wouldn't leave if they were playing. If they were playing at the level they wanted to, they would not leave. People need to understand that. Players leave all the time. And this whole thing is about roster management and the makeup. And we need to spend we got signing period in a couple of weeks. We got the February signing period. We got transfers. We got grad transfers. So need to keep a fairly open mind about that. Also, the deadline for the NFL draft is somewhere around January 16th-ish. So it's about a month after the early signing day. Also, before I get out of here today, an underrated player that we've had committed forever is Braylon Brown. He is potentially, in a normal recruiting cycle, a 5-star receiver. The only reason he's 4-star is because of lack of eyeballs on him. He's a really good player. Go back in on our YouTube channel. I think there's a Braylon Brown highlight on there. And that's from his junior highlights. So it's worth looking at there. There's a receiver that's a 5-star that plays at St. Thomas Aquinas, just like Elijah Moore, coming to Ole Miss. He's not going to play in the slot. He would likely be opposite Jonathan Mingo on the outside. But he's a heck of a player. And he committed so early, it kind of falls between the cracks. And I just wanted to know. And it's somebody like Luke Altmaier is going to have a good time throwing to him for 3 years. Because he's the type of guy that's only going to be here 3 years. He's another Elijah Moore player, except on the outside. I guess closer to like Laquan, or I'm not going to say AJ or DK because they're physical freaks. Anyway, thanks for listening today. This has been the POMcast from the palatial Central Florida studios. Tune in tomorrow. Thanks again.